Keith, and we're going to be talking about sanitation today. I'd like to introduce you to one of the most important weapons you can have to help with sanitation. And I'd like to introduce you to my wife, Linda, for Preparing with Linda.
Thank you, Keith. Okay, so this is probably the most critical thing that we need to know in a disaster, any kind of earthquake, or any time that maybe our water, our sewer, maybe our garbage isn't being picked up. Sanitation is a killer. Remember back in 2004 when the tsunami hit? 230,000 people died in that. But as many people died later in the following weeks and months because of lack of sanitation. And they say 870,000 people a year die now in low-income countries where they don't have the sanitation that maybe we have here in America. And it's just strictly poor sanitation and hygiene. So we really need to get this down, because in an emergency, you don't have time to think about most of these things. You need it day one. So let's talk a little bit about things. So water. Clean water is so critical. Now the church and FEMA and many other places say you need 14 gallons of water per person to last 2 weeks. So you think about that. A 55-gallon drum is about 1 gallon short of for a family of 4. So kind of get that in your mind. Many of us can some fruit and vegetables. So one thing you could do is, when you've got an empty bottle, fill it up with water. It takes just as much room on the shelf, empty or full. That'll give you a lot of water. Have maybe some water filters on hand. This is one that the church sent with their missionaries a few years back, and it's called Seychelles, but it doesn't need to be this one. It's not very expensive, maybe $25. You could have these on hand, and they do a small amount if you're like traveling, 72-hour kit or such. If we want to do some water at home and have some gravity-fed water that we can just continually have clean water, we've got an Aqua Rain, but they're running around a little under $300 right now. But it will do 10,000 gallons of water before you have to maybe change the filters. But right now, they have on the internet, if you were to Google bucket water filters, up comes the way you can make water filter out of 2 food-grade 5-gallon buckets. They send you for about $50. It used to be $35 just a short time ago. So anyway, it's a ceramic, silver impregnated, charcoal filled filter. Now I just went on there today, and you can get 2 of these by themselves for $18. But if you want the little kit that has like the faucet and the things to connect it between the 2 buckets, that'll cost you about $45, $50. But then after that, we have a few of these, because each one of these do approximately 10,000 gallons. So you can store a few of these in a box and have them put aside so that you could have water, and all of us have some buckets around that we could do this with. Now, say we want to purify some water. How do we do that? Well, first of all, if I had some kind of a water filter, coffee filters, okay? Pour the water, if it's kind of iffy water, through this, filter it first. Then all of the little particles that are in it will be not having to be filtered at that time. So have a few of those on hand. Now, Clorox. Clorox only lasts 6 months according to their website before it loses its strength. So that's probably not a good thing to store unless you're going to rotate it and use it in your laundry, which is fine. But what you would need is 8 drops of liquid bleach per gallon, or 1 teaspoon for 5 gallons, or 3 tablespoons for 55 gallons, if it was its correct strength, if you know it's pretty fresh. But what we've done is we have granular chlorine. Now you can buy these at places for spas, and this will last indefinitely. It's a dry granule, and you only need 1/4 of a teaspoon for 55 gallons. So I could do a lot of water. So it cost me about $18 when I bought it maybe 5 years ago. So I can't tell you for sure. I should have looked that up. But you could look that up, and you can buy smaller bottles too. I've seen them at Walmart over in the RV place. It's anywhere you want to purify, like your hot tubs or pools or things like that. Okay, I think we've covered that. You can also boil water, and so if you've got fuel to do that, that would also purify your water. All right, now let's go to probably one of the most critical that would have to happen in the first few hours of an emergency, is what do we do with our bodily waste products? We all use the bathroom many times a day. Now, if it's number 1, they call it liquid gold, and it's pretty sterile, and we don't need to worry about it. So keep a bottle around, fill it up, water your plants with it, dilute it a little if you're going to go straight on the plants, but it can fertilize our plants. So don't throw that away, and don't just put that mixed with number 2. Okay, we'll talk a little bit about that, but I want to talk about if the sewer stops, what you need to do. Because when the sewer stops, a lot of smells and odors come up into our house through all of our, like our little, vents and tubs and toilets. So there's a couple of things we would need to do. When they're building a house, they get what's called test plugs. Now we bought some for each one of our drains in our house, and the sizes. Of course, so this would be your toilet size if you took the toilet off. We have a vent down in the base, or a drain down in the basement that this can go on, and you just put these in, spin it, tightens it out, nothing comes up, then you can just pull it out. Now this cost us $22 years and years ago, so that might be something you might not want to do. But you can make your own with these balls and socks. So what you would do, okay, if you were still going to use your toilet, I'll explain how to do that. You would take all the extra water out because the water's not running anymore. You would cover this with some Vaseline, and you would poke it down the hole and leave this out, so that when the emergency is over, you can pull this out and your toilet's working fine. You can also get different size balls to go in little different drains. So in your tub, in your shower, this type of thing. It would keep critters and odor from coming up into your house if the sewer was not running. So hopefully that's a worst case scenario. Okay, I'm going to talk about what we would do, first of all, with our number 2, which is toxic. Okay, say we wanted to make our toilets usable in our house. We didn't want to go out into an outhouse. So we've taken the water out, we've put this little plug in our toilet. We take about a tall garbage bag, we line the inside of the toilet, and we tape it. And that stays. Then we put a second one in, and that's the one we use. Now remember I said put a bottle or something by your toilet for number 1 if possible. Because if you don't mix number 1 and 2, the odor isn't very bad and there isn't a soupy mess. Okay, because remember, we are going to have to take this bag out and bury it. So every time you go number 2, you kind of sprinkle it. Remember what a cat does? They put a little dirt on it, they put a little grass. Kitty litter is great. So maybe 1/3 of a cup of kitty litter, just sprinkle it on number 2. The odor is gone, and we can get a little more in there. Okay, when you're done, we'll take it out, like say put a bucket under your bag just in case it breaks. We don't want a mess in our house because like I said, this is toxic. So then we would go outside, and could you zero in on this poster that I've made of how we dig a hole? Okay, so you go outside and you'd dig a hole maybe 12, 18 inches around, and about, you can go anywhere from 3 to 5 feet deep. And you would dig that hole, so you need to have a shovel, maybe a post hole digger on hand. We've done this many times when we've gone camping, and it doesn't take too long if the ground isn't too bad. We've had some bad cases, but most of the time it doesn't take too long. So then, when you go out, you've filled your bag maybe half full, and you've got a little kitty litter on it or something. You take it out and you dump it into the hole. The reason you dump it into the hole is the microbes in the dirt will take that number 2, excuse me, and break it down into dirt again. Then you put a little more dirt. I throw dirt from the pile that you dug this hole with, a little bit of dirt on it. Then you can throw the bag back down there, put a little dirt on the bag, and you're ready for the next time. Obviously, you'll want to cover the hole in between use. Piece of plywood, maybe a cinder block weight on the top so that dogs can't get into it or other critters. And then it's ready for the next time. And you can use that for, depending on how many people, for quite a long time. We went camping with 4 of us, and we dug us a hole, and we were there for a week, and we only used about, are you focusing on me? About 4 inches. Okay, about that much is all we used of the hole. And then we filled it right in, and no one knew that we had used that as our toilet. So you could use that for your number 2, or garbage that was starting to rot and you didn't know what to do with it. So the bad garbage is anything that is wet with food products in it. If you've got dry garbage, just compress it good and then take it out, and in emergencies we would burn it in a can or in a container of some type. But wet garbage needs to be buried. Okay, let's pause for a minute and we'll move on. Okay, so we talked about how you would convert your toilets at home into a dry toilet, so to speak, so that we could at least be comfortable and use our own toilets. But what if we had to evacuate, or what if we had to go out into our yard because our house got a little bit ruined in an earthquake perhaps, and we're in a tent or something? So what would we use for going to the bathroom out there? So one of our favorite things is a luggable loo. And you can buy these online or in some sportsman's stores. You could also just have a bucket and buy the toilet seat if you want to go a little cheaper. What we've done is made this something for our 72-hour kit. So we've filled it with things like if I had to go outside, I'd need something for privacy. So I went to the dollar store and I've got like 4 plastic curtains. I've got some curtain rings. I've got toilet paper in here. I've got garbage bags, and I've got some rope that we go around a tree and hang these curtains. So this is a whole kit for us with some toilet paper and such, and gloves. So you can make it like that if you'd like to, or just have it ready to go. But it's fairly easy. You can sit on it fairly good, and it takes quite a bit of weight. It could be tipped over. We had that happen once when we went camping, and it kind of made a mess. So you have to think of that, but it is nice and convenient and luggable, so to speak. So the luggable loo. Now the other thing we have in those little white things that look like mints, they are some washcloths, so to speak. So you just drop it in a little bit of water, and you come up with a wet towel for very little space. So you can find those on the internet too. So just little compressed towels that look like white mints, and you'll come up with it. So they're wet, they're very strong, something that you could easily use and takes up very little space. Now, what we've done, and obviously you don't need to do anything quite this elaborate, but we've taken this camping with us when we were gone for a week or two, and it's a really sturdy outhouse toilet. So it's just out in the shed, so it's ready to go if we do have to have long-term outside. And it's just hollow, and you could put the luggable loo under that, which we have done when we didn't have time to dig a hole, and then you have a sturdier seat. You can buy little collapsible toilets, but you have to watch the weight limit on those. So whatever you're buying, watch the weight limits. They have little hassock things. They're really short, and for older people, that's really hard to get up. This is even hard. You could put it on a 6-gallon bucket instead of a 5. But this is the best, and you could just make a little square if you wanted to. We have this so that we can keep our things on this side. So you would dig your hole under this, just like we talked about over there. The waste product would go in it, and everything would be good. Okay, so let's talk about, this is a little bidet top that'll go on any water bottle or anything that you can use if you don't have a lot of toilet paper and you want to, or you're just trying to wash yourself. We use this as a urinal when we go camping. If you can give a urine specimen at the doctor's office, you can use this bottle, okay? If there's a problem with women, they have these things called Ms. Whiz that makes women as effective as men at aiming, so think of those. That's a good thing to have beside your toilet if you were using your inside toilet too. Now, you're supposed to have about 6 rolls of toilet paper per person, and that will be for a month. So kind of think if you're trying to get 3 months worth of toilet paper or what, however many people you've got, that's how much toilet paper you'll need. Garbage bags. You're going to need garbage bags for your toileting and for garbage. If the garbage system is broken down and they are not picking up your garbage, divide your garbage, wash out your cans, get rid of all the food products, bury those, or feed them to chickens or such if that works. Burn your dry products, except for used toilet paper. Don't burn that, bury that. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. So let's pause and we'll go on to our washing our clothes. Okay, we're back with how to wash our clothes. Now, if our water isn't running and our sewer isn't running, obviously we can't use our washers even if we have electricity. So there's a few things we can do. Now, I'm going to tell you some that maybe you don't want to do. We bought this little Wonder Washer, and it works great. It's just quite small, and you put your socks, your underwear in there, some water and soap, and spin that a few times, and it does wash them well. But it doesn't hold a lot, like a pair of Levi's and a shirt or something like that. So it costs, $40 or something. I don't think it's necessary, but that gives you an idea if you'd like to do it. But what we've done is we have some buckets. So I've got 2 buckets. They've got the gamma lids so that you can take the lids off, and they've got a hole that we drilled right in the top that's the size of this. Now what is in here, so this is called a washing wand. There's rapid washers, there's all different brands of this. I like this one because it breaks down into enough that it'll just fit in this little box on your shelf. So if you're looking for something like that, that'd be great. Or you can just have it and keep it in this. The Wonder Washer, let's see, I think it's about $25. Or not the Wonder Washer, the Rapid Washer or the washing wand. It's got some baffles in here. And so it's kind of nice as you're going up and down like this, and washing your clothes. You're really agitating them and getting it in. There's air in here, and it helps. Now, if If by chance you didn't have that, this is just a plunger, but you would have to drill maybe 4 holes in here, because as you went down and got the bottom, it would plug right on it, and you'd be trying to jerk that loose. So if you're going to use just a plunger, get some holes in it so you can go up and down. Now the reason we have a few of these is you're going to have to rinse. So just use a little bit of soap. You don't need a lot of laundry soap. Put a little bit in there in your washer, you wash it. Then you put it in the other one and you rinse it, but it's still going to have stuff in, so they say to rinse it twice. But then if you needed to wash some more clothes, that last rinse water would be great for the next washing water. So be careful of your water, and you don't need to just dump it all out. And if you are going to dump it out, water your things outside, especially if we are not having water running. Okay, so you get it out and it's wet. And I don't know if any of you have ever gotten it out when your washer didn't spin all the way and it's just heavy. And if you're wringing it out, your hands are really going to get tired. So there's a couple of things you can do. You can buy, this is a mop bucket, and it's about $40. And you put your clothes in here, and you push that down, the water comes out. And so that way you can get the water out without your hands. Now, I've got some rope and some good old-fashioned clothespins, because you're going to have to hang them out, because I guess if your electricity is working, you could use your dryer. But if perchance we don't have that, you'll want to string these between some trees or something and hang it. So we go out and hang that. So I've got a few things. We have an 18-gallon bin, and all the stuff that you see up here, except the bigger items, goes in one 18-gallon bin. So it's not like your sanitation bin has to be, you don't have to have shelves and shelves to put these on. And you don't need to buy what we've got. It's just giving you some ideas of what you could do. But in the handout that I'm going to give you, it shows if you just buy a few things like borax and soda and some Zote or Fels Naphtha, you can make enough laundry detergent for a year with just that much. It lasts really well. It makes it very cheap. You could use it now if you want to. Or this represents obviously laundry soap, but you would buy your big one that you use in your home and just have that to use. And you don't need as much as they say on your laundry soap. So especially if you were washing it by hand, don't use a lot of soap, because you've got to rinse that out. This is what I've made from a cup of powdered borax, a cup of washing soda, and 1 cup of the bar soap that I've kind of grated up. And you just need 1 to 2 tablespoons per batch. So it's a good way to do it. I think that's, your bin, your 18-gallon bin, that would make a great thing to wash in. You could just use this in your bin and then take it out and rinse it. Okay? So you don't need to go fancy. We're giving you some ideas, but just think how you would do it. Now, when you're washing clothes, think to yourself, all right, in an emergency, I'm not going to worry so much how I look. I can wear my Levi's until they stand up by themselves. But you do need to wash your underwear and your socks, or you'll get fungal infections that will just drive you crazy. So make sure at least your underwear is changed daily or every other day so that you don't get these infections. Okay, we're going to talk about a few other things in a second. Okay, we're back. Now we're going to talk about, like, say, cleaning things, disinfecting things. Now my favorite thing, and especially with this pandemic that we're undergoing right now, I've got the mask here to show that, that's important to have in your sanitation too. If we have to deal with some things that would affect our breathing, then we want to do that. Now Stearamine, S-T-E-R-A-M-I-N-E. On the internet, it's anywhere from $10 to $12 a bottle. 150 tablets, no expiration date, as long as you keep them dry, and I keep them in a dark place too. 1 to 2 tablets. So it's either 150 gallons or 75 gallons of disinfectant for about $10. So that's pretty cheap on the internet. This says it kills COVID-19. It kills HIV, MRSA, SARS. So it's a disinfectant. This is not what you would use to purify your water to drink. You could spray this on your dishes and let it air dry. Restaurants use this on all their countertops. You could spray it on your doors. It does not hurt your hands, but it disinfects, as well as these sanitizers. The sanitizers dry my hands out a lot, and so I've made up my styramine, and I just spray this. I have some in my purse, I have some in my car, I have it around, so it works just as well as your sanitizer, but whatever you would like to do. So styramine, your hand sanitizer, if that's your preference. I've got alcohol and hydrogen peroxide, because those can help in wounds or in cleaning things. Vinegar would be a good thing too. I don't have that out here, but most of us have that in our kitchen. It cleans a lot of these things too. So if we're trying to clean our countertops or our doors or anything in a pandemic, this is great to have. Now, if you just get like wick, it's mostly for odor. So don't think of this as something that will clean. But your Lysol spray and your Oust, they will clean about 99.9%. They'll kill that many of the germs and viruses. So those would be the better things to get. Your Clorox wipes. Now, like this pandemic, I haven't been able to find any, and I've had these in my storage. So this is something, these kind of things kind of disappeared during the pandemic. So you need to have these ahead of time so that you have them in an emergency. So I would say to get some of those. I've got some rubber gloves here. I have some latex gloves. Anything to protect your hands when you're working with things so that you don't get disease. Now I would say when we're washing dishes, okay, so have some dish soap on hand. It's going to be harder in that kind of a situation. So if we can have some paper plates, paper cups, disposable utensils, that would help. Okay, you're obviously going to have to clean some pans and different things like that. But if you have a few of these in an emergency, then that'll help a lot. Okay, let's go on to like hygiene, especially feminine hygiene. Now you can imagine, just like toilet paper, it's awful to not have toilet paper. It'd be horrible for a woman not to have this when she needs it. So store your sanitary napkins, your tampons, and things like that. Now, I forgot to say something in the toilet paper. If you do run out of toilet paper, you may have to do kind of like what I did when my babies were little. This is what they use now, these disposable diapers, and they're terrific. But when I had babies, they were cloth diapers. So I have some diapers on hand. Obviously, I'm not still having babies, but I have grandbabies and great-grandbabies. So I have them some plastic pants and some pins. And so this kind of all goes together in things like this. But if you do run out of any of these things, toilet paper, diapers, sanitary napkins, so I don't throw away my flannel towels or sheets or any of your towels that kind of wear out, because they would make great toilet paper. You would cut them into squares. When you were done using them, you would get your Clorox, make some water mixed with the Clorox and a lid on your bucket, and you drop it in there and you wash it. That's what we did all the time my babies were young. So I know it sounds gross, but that would work. So don't panic if you run out of toilet paper. Just find things that you can use and just drop them in the Clorox water and then wash them. Okay. Okay, baby wipes. Okay, baby wipes do a great job on little babies' hind ends, and they would do great for you too. So a lot of times when we go camping, we just use that, armpits, you know, places that you would want to keep extra specially clean so they don't get this fungus. Do that, wipe yourself with that in between the time when you'd have a shower, because if we were lacking water, we would mostly have to do that. Like pioneers just had a little bowl of water or a pitcher of water, and they would just put a little bit on a cloth and wash themselves, and we could do that too. So as long as you've got some soap on hand and some water, and that 2 gallons a day includes some to wash yourself with, some to cook with, and some to drink. So that would work. Now, I wanted to talk about what awful things flies do. You notice we've got some fly tapes, we've got mouse traps, we've got insect repellent, and Keith showed you our weapon of choice here, our fly swatter. But he got this for his birthday, so it kills bugs. But let me just read you what flies do. There are more than 120,000 species of flies worldwide, and they defecate every 4 to 5 minutes, spreading disease. That's awful. And the housefly is the most common species, carrying over 100 different kinds of germs, causing diseases such as typhoid fever, dysentery, TB, bubonic plague, and leprosy, to name just a few. And they will lay eggs on your food and vomit on it before they feast. So we especially do not want flies on our food because they pass disease on to us. So just one more thing here. Okay, our hygiene. Make sure you have, for every person in your house, at least 1 tube of toothpaste, at least 1 extra toothbrush, and some floss. And think of, like, if you're always using lip balm, you need to have that. If you need the things to clean your ears, the cotton swabs, have those. Vaseline. My hands are so dry that I always need those. So think what you would need and have at least 1 extra, but I would prefer you have at least 3 months worth, because in an emergency, it takes a while to get things back. And I don't know if you noticed during this pandemic, but a lot of things were missing in the stores for a long time. So if it's something you really need and you like to use, you need to get 2 or 3 months worth and have it on hand. I hope this has helped you. I've got a handout that has some recipes on how to make soap from just basic items, so that you could store just the 3 things I have down there and make soap, dishwasher soap, all sorts of recipes for that, and all of these things that I've talked about and some goals for you to have are on this. So I will link that to the bottom of this video, and hopefully this will help you. I know this looks like a lot. It's mostly what we have, but I just want you to make sure you have a little bit on hand so that this critical sanitation and hygiene does not get overlooked and cause you to be sick during an emergency. Thank you. Okay, my husband kind of reminded me of one more thing, so I just want to remind you of this. We're all in this together, and if our neighbors don't know this about sanitation and they leave their waste products out and the flies come and land on that and then land on our food, we're all in trouble. So help your neighbors to know this, pass this around, make sure that they understand how critical it is that we take care of these critters that are going to get into our waste products and bring diseases into our home. Thank you.